Welcome back to our ongoing live broadcast as we continue to follow the rapidly escalating and volatile situation emerging from the Middle East. The human cost of this intensified conflict is becoming painfully clear. We can now confirm that at least 3 United States service members have been killed, and 5 others have sustained serious injuries during the initial phase of Operation Epic Fury. This operation, which marks a significant shift in military strategy, saw the United States launch strikes against Iran beginning early Saturday morning. In a statement addressing the nation, President Trump declared that the United States will avenge these deaths. However, in a somber admission of the reality of war, he also noted that the nation should expect that there will likely be more casualties before this conflict reaches its conclusion. Alongside these military updates, a significant diplomatic development has just reached our newsroom in the form of a joint statement released by the United States and its key Middle East allies. This document was posted by Dylan Johnson, the Assistant Secretary of State for Global Public Affairs. It represents a unified front, including the United States, Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Qatar, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. Collectively, these nations have issued a strong and unequivocal condemnation of the Islamic Republic of Iran regarding its missile and drone offensive. The statement explicitly cites the indiscriminate and reckless nature of these attacks against sovereign territories across the entire region. The list of affected areas is extensive, including Bahrain, Iraq, specifically the Iraqi Kurdistan region, as well as Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. The coalition goes on to describe these strikes as unjustified, noting that they have not only targeted sovereign territory, but have also endangered civilian populations and caused damage to civilian infrastructure. The actions of the Islamic Republic are characterized here as a dangerous escalation that violates the sovereignty of multiple states and threatens the stability of the entire region. The statement emphasizes that targeting civilians and countries not engaged in hostilities is reckless and destabilizing behavior. It concludes with a firm message of unity, stating that these nations stand together in defense of their citizens' sovereignty and territory, reaffirming their right to self-defense in the face of these attacks. Furthermore, they remain committed to regional security and commend the effective air and missile defense cooperation that has, thus far, prevented a far greater loss of life and destruction. As we move into day 2 of the American and Israeli air strikes inside Iran, the situation remains fluid. Sunday saw continued bombings not only within Iranian borders but also across the broader Middle East, as aggression from both sides continues to mount. Here in the United States, there is a heightened sense of security and vigilance. However, simultaneously, we are witnessing a wave of celebration from segments of the Iranian community in America, who are openly praising the decision by President Trump to attack and specifically to eliminate the supreme leader. Our correspondent C.B. Cotton has been monitoring the situation and reports on the profound impact this is having domestically. Thousands of Iranians and Iranian Americans have flooded into Times Square today. The atmosphere is charged with emotion. Some are waving flags, others are chanting, but all appear to be celebrating what they view as a historic turning point for Iran. Many of the demonstrators were seen carrying the former flag of Iran, the one bearing the lion and sun, which is a symbol of the nation before the current regime took power. Others held signs praising both President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Some participants went even further, holding posters celebrating the death of Ayatollah Khamenei. People on the ground expressed a belief that this moment could signal the beginning of real regime change. One individual described the emotion vividly, stating that they thought they would die without ever seeing this day. They described the last 47 years as living in a big jail with no hope of freedom, and expressed that witnessing this moment alongside the Iranian American diaspora is a profound honor. Similar scenes of jubilation are unfolding across the country in Los Angeles, which is home to the largest Iranian diaspora outside of Iran itself. There, crowds have poured into the street, dancing, singing, and waving Persian flags in celebration. However, it is important to note that the reaction has not been entirely uniform. On Saturday in New York City, protesters gathered to condemn the United States-led strike. But those who gathered today in Times Square presented a starkly different perspective, praising the military action. To help us understand the deeper implications of these events, we are joined now by political scientist Dr. Benjamin Rad. Thank you for being here with us. We have seen the reaction here in the United States, but the critical question remains regarding the situation on the ground ground inside Iran. How are the people there reacting to this weekend's strike, and specifically to the death of the supreme leader and other powerful figures within the regime? According to Dr. Rad, despite the restrictive environment, many have likely seen the videos and images circulating on social media showing street celebrations and fireworks. There appears to be a segment of the population celebrating the demise of the supreme leader, hoping that this signals the fall of the regime, or at least a significant change of guard and a relaxation of the oppressive police state they live under. However, the mood is complex. Dr. Rad notes that the people are guarded. They remain cautiously optimistic, but they are acutely aware of the dangers and the unpredictability of the days ahead. With so many powerful figures within the regime having been removed from the chessboard at this critical juncture, the pressing question that dominates geopolitical discussions is simply, what is next for the leadership in Tehran? We received some insight into this earlier today. President Trump, during a phone call with the New York Times, addressed inquiries regarding the future leadership of Iran. His response was notably cryptic yet telling, stating that there are some choices available regarding who could potentially lead next. Simultaneously, we have heard from Iran's top national security official, who announced that an interim committee will assume control of the country until a successor is formally chosen for the position of supreme leader. This leads us to a crucial analysis. What does the future hold for the leadership of the Islamic regime, and what specific steps would be necessary to transition toward the democracy that so many Iranians are vocally demanding? Let us begin by examining the first step. Iran's constitutional system does possess a formalized process for selecting the next supreme leader. However, the fundamental issue is that there is currently no candidate who possesses the stature, the religious authority, or the widespread following that Ayatollah Khamenei commanded. It is worth noting that Khamenei himself was not initially considered the most qualified candidate. He was essentially elevated into the position upon the death of Khomeini, the founder of the Islamic Republic, largely through political maneuvering at the last moment. Khamenei was a unique, singular figure, representing the last of the old guard that was part of the founding generation of the Islamic Republic. The potential successors currently available simply do not have the following or the widespread appeal among the devout masses, those segments of the population that remain loyal to the regime's ideology. Therefore, the question of who could possibly appease all the different power factions, and whether such an individual would have the legitimacy to guide Iran into its next stage, is entirely open. Will it be a mere figurehead, or will we see the emergence of a council comprising military commanders, intelligence officials, and senior jurists who would effectively lead the country on a day-to-day basis? Any of these scenarios is plausible. For the Islamic Republic, this is truly uncharted territory. This is not a contingency that they had planned for in this specific manner. While they undoubtedly have a succession plan on paper, we suspect they did not anticipate executing it under these chaotic conditions. There are significant unknowns. Regarding the prospect of democracy, we must be realistic. We are still a considerable distance from that outcome. This is a regime that has historically shown it will not go down without a fight. They are currently throwing every last volley and utilizing whatever remaining resources they possess to maintain their grip on power. The duration and extent of this retaliation remain uncertain. We are only about 2 days into this conflict, yet we continue to receive constant updates indicating that more countries in the region are becoming entangled. Strikes have been reported hitting locations in Lebanon, in Dubai, and various other areas across the Middle East. This raises critical questions about the regional implications. Could this conflict spread even further? And what does this instability mean for the long-term future of the Middle East? If Iran continues to target the Emirates, the Gulf states, and nations that were not directly involved and had no desire for this conflict, then it opens the door to a multi-front war. This would not just involve Israel and the United States, but potentially the other Arab armies as well. These nations have already issued very strongly worded statements indicating they reserve their right to respond to attacks on their sovereign territory. It is crucial to highlight that Iran has hit not just military targets but also civilian ones, including luxury hotels and Dubai's international airport. For these nations, such actions constitute a direct breach of their sovereignty and a clear violation of international law. Whether this escalates to a wider conflict remains to be seen. Will these Arab states respond directly? Will they defer to the United States to carry out retaliatory measures? Will Iran continue its barrage against these neighbors? Lebanon stands as an outlier in this equation because Hezbollah has actively joined the offensive with Iran, firing missiles into Israel, prompting Israeli responses. Given that Lebanon is the home base for the Hezbollah militant group, a key proxy of Iran, it was anticipated that they would become involved. We now want to bring up some viewer questions. We have been asking our audience to send in inquiries about what they would like to know regarding this conflict and the situation in the Middle East. We have a question here from Aaron in Lakeland, who asks, how many officials remain devout to the Islamic Republic in Iran? And can you also talk about the sentiment of the people inside the country? This touches on the core of the regime's survival.